Welcome to Wahlotron, where I, Nick, and Yulia talk about German elections and all that fun jazz. I thought that it would be fun this week to talk about a party that we haven't talked about on the main show for a
while, yeah.
Over a year, actually,
Crazy.
Because they have seemed to disappear from the mainstream of German news, I think, since Corona happened, because we've been in a pandemic for a year.
Oh my God, what?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
been a year.
Oh, shit.
Been a year of staying at home.
Oh.
And that party is the AfD, the
Yeah.
Alternative für Deutschland, or Alternative for Germany if you don't speak German. And this party got a lot of press.
Recently.
Well, yeah, recently because of what we're going to get to, but up to 2017 at the last elections, because they were seen as the first popular, openly racist, openly far right-wing party that Germany has had since the post-war.
Yeah.
If you don't take into consideration the way that the CDU and the FDP's
After
politics
the
were,
war, especially after
Yeah.
the war, yeah.
so
True.
that are openly right-wing,
Yeah.
and that are not like these small parties like the NPD, who are a card-carrying Nazi party,
Exactly.
but are too small to be banned.
Yeah.
The AfD came about, for those who need a refresher, with the so-called refugee crisis,
Yeah, quote unquote.
and ended up into German parliament as the third largest party in Germany
Yep.
currently.
There were states where they actually, like states in the east, was it Saxony? I don't know, Lower Saxony, where they actually won as like the
Lower Saxony is not the east. Niedersachsen is
not
the east.
Niedersachsen,
Regular
Sachsen-Anhalt.
Saxony, yeah.
Sachsen-Anhalt, man. Sorry, too many Saxonies in Germany. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they could actually like win the whole, reaching the whole state
Yeah.
for the Bundestag, right, for the federal elections. So
Yeah.
this was, they
This
were
time
big.
around, it's not looking to be that case, though. So, in 2017, they took 94 seats. And I think even right here, we see that the AfD was just not a cohesive party,
Yes.
because 6 members of immediately, like a couple of days or weeks after winning their seats as a part of the AfD, all step down and either form their own political parties or then end up fraktionslos, or as like an independent member of parliament.
Yeah.
The most famous one being Frauke Petri.
Petri, yep.
Yeah, our queen. What did her husband call her?
Oh my,
A demonic beauty.
demonic beauty, yes.
Yeah.
Frauke. If
But,
you hear this,
Yeah,
Call
so
me.
she steps down, forms a group called the Blues that then never actually forms, and she's just now
fraktionslos sitting
yeah.
around.
And then 2 other members, Bernd Lücke, who was part of the more, he literally calls the party the Liberal Conservative Reformist Party,
Yeah, I
which
guess that's
for
what it
Americans
is.
sounds weird, but it is a thing in European politics to be liberal conservative. I would say that the most parties that then are free market libertarian parties like the FDP and stuff like that have fractions of their parties that are like
Definitely.
this. Or in the UK, the like Lib Dems could possibly be
that's
considered
something like
this,
that, yeah.
depending on who you ask. So they wanted to be more market oriented without the racism. They're still probably
I mean,
racist.
I don't doubt that there's not like some casual racism still going
Oh,
on,
yeah.
or more than casual racism, but it's not the main focus.
Yeah, it's the market, baby.
It's a market.
Yeah, they're all about economics. They all want the free market. They're actually weirdly the only truly free market party in Germany. The AfD, a lot of the times, we'll get to that. Their economic plans are very weird, but they really caused tremors in the German political scene, because you had then a society that then, thinking that they've dealt with this racism very well, which, I mean, we've talked on the show, they haven't.
Yeah.
Having then the third largest party just be this openly racist, openly xenophobic, openly right-wing party.
With like factions of the party that has like anti-Semitic views. Yeah. And I mean, that is something that Germany thought would not happen again. I mean, we can talk about this as being like a utopia. But
Germany is definitely a utopia. Those are the 2 things that then I associate in my brain with utopic ideas and practices.
Yeah.
But it really was I would say up until Corona, you would always see these things of the AfD. They're part of this like right-wing populism strain that's going around Europe. And they've been weirdly tanking recently.
Yeah.
Not tanking, but they've been losing voter, they've been slowly going down in the polls to, I think they're currently at 9%.
9%, yeah, I just checked that.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting because you would have think that they would have weaponized Corona.
Yeah.
And they haven't really taken the opportunity fully.
Because what they did, it was in 2017. Of course, they used what people call a refugee crisis as...
They were like a one-issue party at that point.
Yeah, exactly, as the catalyst for to gain votes, to fish right populists, with right populists in, how people would think what populism is, and the right populist opinions. It would just be them, looking to.
Yeah, I think that they were pretty comparable within the UKIP people, Orban, Trump, all that. They were very much
basically, as you would say in German.
Yeah, and they had a good relationship with all of these parties and people to the point that Richard Grenell, former ambassador to Germany under the Trump administration, only palled around with the AfD.
Yeah, kind of almost endorsed them, even though...
Yeah, I couldn't obviously...
Yeah, of course, that's not what you're supposed to do as a diplomat.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So they definitely had this string within the new, international nationalist European movement. Mm-hmm. And then... like I said, the roadblock then of what Corona came. But the thing that then's probably the most interesting about this party of recent that affects them going into the elections this year is that they have been under investigation multiple times by the Verfassungsschutz, which is the German equivalent to the FBI. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying, I'm not standing the Verfassungsschutz. I'm not saying that they're good or whatever, because they do target left-wing groups far more than they do right-wing groups.
Definitely, way more.
And they had in 2017, when they ended up in parliament, into 2018, there were suggestions of them being put onto a list of being watched because of potential Nazi affiliations that they had, far-right, persons within their party who may or may not have been associated with other groups like the NPD.
Yep.
One of them may be one of the heads of the party with the name that sounds like Bandhöcke, but he may have written under a pen name for the newspaper that the NPD makes. These are all, things that are potentially out there. But in 2018, the head of the Verfassungsschutz gave them tips on how to avoid investigation.
Yeah.
And had to step down for that reason.
Yeah, Hans-Georg Maaßen. Yeah, it was a big scandal in Germany that this happened. It's something that a lot of people already know, especially when you're on the left, that shit like this happened. If you paid attention to any kind of Verfassungsschutz scandal or things that didn't even were dug out yet, but if we think about stuff like NSU.
I was just about to mention the NSU.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Verfassungsschutz is known to do shit like this, especially under Hans-Georg Maaßen, who afterwards was a very outspoken about his right-wing ideology, and
he's one of the worst Twitter posters.
Yeah, and
because
his support for the AfD.
Yeah, and so what's the Verfassungsschutz been doing though recently, Julia?
Well, recently it's interesting. So if we look at the AfD, we have basically we have in the East a bit of a different dynamic for the AfD than we have in the West for NRW AfD, for example.
NRW AfD, say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, NRW AfD. You might say, I don't want to call them moderate either, in the West.
The moderate fascists.
Yeah, the moderate fascists. And, And in the East, you have a stronger, you have Höcke.
Who you can legally call a Nazi.
Exactly.
Or no, sorry, you can legally call him a fascist.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah,
you have the fascist Höcke in Thüringen, Thuringia or whatever.
Thuringia, yes, I believe that's how it's unfortunately pronounced.
And he founded a faction of the party called Der Flügel, the Wing. So basically already saying the right wing.
Yeah.
And he just has to add that. And that is basically what it is. Openly like flirting with Nazi ideology. Speeches that really remind you of 19...
He really wants to be Hitler.
Yeah, or Goebbels. I don't know.
I don't know. He's such a nerd, though. Like, this is the thing, is that all these little, especially like when you look at like the youth wing of the AFD, like the Junge Alternative, they all want to look like Richard Spencer.
Oh, they do. Yeah, they
it's
want
like
to be
the
nipsters.
Aldi version. Yeah, it's the Aldi version of Richard Spencer. They're all disgusting pigs.
They all have like super nice haircuts to the side, like Hayat frisur.
Yeah, they all. Yeah, they look like a mix of Richard Spencer and then the SS doctor from Hellboy.
Definitely.
But like in no way cool.
No.
Like fucking Wish.com SS officer.
You get your fake leather coat here.
Yeah, they're probably all vegan too, which is even funnier because they're fucking Nazis are so weird.
But yeah, so talking about like the faction Der Flügel, the wing, it was this part of the...
I'm not gonna lie, sounds kind of sick in English. The wing.
The wing, yeah. This part of the AfD was already ruled as being like right-wing extremist by the Verfassungsschutz, by the German, we can say Verfassungsschutz.
Yeah, you can say Verfassungsschutz is a word that ends up, protectors the Constitution? No.
Yeah, no, we just say Verfassungsschutz. By the Verfassungsschutz in Thuringia. Now, parts, like this faction is also like represented in other states, especially in the East. So, yeah. In Sachsen-Anhalt, it was already like ruled a suspected case of right-wing extremism. In Thuringia, of course, as well, because they are...
they're the majority part of the party.
Exactly. So this is like where the wing comes from. This is like Björn Höcke's Bernd Höcke.
I take it back, actually. The wing does not sound cool. The wing sounds very fascist.
Yeah, it does.
Like, I very much take that back. Not cool.
So this now happened as well in Saxony. And this is actually quite interesting because, so like being declared a suspected case of right-wing extremism means that they can get informants into the party, and we know,
So the AFD is just going to get massive just spike in party
exactly.
membership.
It was, I'm a
government
V-man. Yeah, I'm just an informant.
Like, this is cool.
No,
Wait,
like,
what? I want to do this the whole time.
I love doing fascist shit, but like I'm basically just a V-man, so like no like, legal consequences or anything, and the whole fucking case doesn't work because everyone is a fucking informant.
Yeah, and then the kids get thrown out because they'll be like, oh damn, he actually became a member of the AFD.
Exactly. So that is how I worked with NSU, for example.
Yeah. Oh god, that's a whole other mess that we actually very rarely talked about on the main show.
Yeah, we should at some point.
It's a lot of info.
Yeah, it is. Exactly, and they can like tap into like the emails and shit like that. So like and investigate. I don't know their emails.
Doing what security apparatus
observe.
Do
exactly. So, but this is the third state in the East declaring the AfD or the faction of the AfD that is like dominant in these states a suspected case of right-wing extremism.
Yeah.
So what Höcke did is like dissolving the wing.
Damn.
Because of this, and then kind of like to protect the AfD, because if you dissolve the right-wing extremist part, then there is nothing left of it, of course. This is what happened to combat like 18.
Oh yeah, I fucking forgot about that. It doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, the German military does not have a right-wing problem anymore.
Nazism solved.
Yeah, done. When the Nazis just dissolve themselves.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, this is not what happens. And of course, they're still very active. So like 3 states in the East now have...
Björn Höcke is still a part of the party.
Yeah, exactly. Still there, still doing shit. And this could become a problem for the rest of the AfD, because this is actually the whole thing about like people like fighting about what is the AfD. I mean, there are a lot of different right-wing opinions and right-wing ideologies
it's a marketplace of ideas if you're maybe a fascist.
Yeah, exactly. It's a marketplace for of ideas for fascists.
Yeah.
Or like right-wing conservatives. depends. So,
Dudes
but this
who wish Germany would go back to the borders, pre-1937 or whatever.
So this could become a problem for the rest of the AfD, because now you have 3 states where the AfD is, under investigation and a suspected case of right-wing extremism in Germany.
Yeah, so that doesn't seem to be good going into an election year.
Exactly. Actually, because now, a few days ago, there was also a study released by the Bertelsmann Stiftung. We talked, I think, about the Bertelsmann Stiftung briefly in super early episodes, but
possibly, I don't remember this.
They do a lot of lobbying work for certain parties, like CDU and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember them.
But they also did this study with voters, and the study, I mean, I don't know how the study was conducted, but saying that 29% of voters for the AfD hold consolidated far right wing extremist views. So
that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's almost 30% of the voting populace. Yeah. So I mean, the AfD being then embodying the traditional far right things is obviously of no surprise. The thing that I think is very surprising, though, if you know the history of fascism, it isn't surprising. But if you're an onlooker of casual European politics and see this, it's not as apparent. But there's another organization, I believe it's I don't know if it's out of Switzerland or out of Austria, the Friedrich Hayek Society. And they've had a massive amount of people who are a part of this organization who have ended up either in the AfD or ended up then influencing decisions in Germany, particularly the recent one with Germany allowing their fiscal sovereignty from the ECB. A lot of that came from people who have association with this Stiftung or this society or Verein, whatever the hell it's called. And they're weirdly influential amongst people who are judges or economists and stuff like that, but on the fringe to a degree. Yeah. And 2 members of the AfD who are very big, Alice Weidel, who recently stepped down.
Oh, you made her French just now.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, okay. Alice Weidel.
Yeah, sorry, whatever. Yeah. Alice Weidel.
Thank you.
Who recently stepped down last week from the Friedrich Hayek Society, is probably the most famous of being the openly lesbian member of the AfD who wants to criminalize same-sex marriages, which she herself is married. And another one who is probably one of my favorite characters of the AfD is Beatrix von Storch, who we have not talked about for a long time. And one of the funniest things I think this is kind of implements how the economic aspect of the AfD is also grounded, is that Beatrix von Storch comes from a very long line of actual Nazis. Yay. That one of her grandfathers was
Nazi royalty,
if you will, yes. And one of her grandfathers was legitimately Hitler's finance minister. And one of her other grandfathers was one of the heads of the SA. So, card-carrying Nazis, legitimately at the upper echelons, to the point that her one grandfather ended up in prison for 10 years for being a member of the Nazi Party.
Well, that's not long enough.
Pretty sure that her, discussions around the family dinner table are normal and in no way plagued by this whatsoever, because Germany got over it, remember? According to the recent Andreas Kluth piece.
Exactly.
So, the thing that's always really funny is that the Friedrich Hayek Society is a free market libertarian Austrian economic group that functions in a sense of trying to produce policy papers to push these free market ideals that are obviously associated with the Austrian School of Economics, which Friedrich Hayek is one of the founding members of.
Yeah, which Friedrich is ideology and not the natural forces of the market.
Yes, of course.
Saying,
so trying to then be in the sense that they're not a right-wing party, that they are just they are a free market liberal entity. One of the funniest things, obviously, about Hayek is that he ended up being what's his name? Engelbert Dollfuss's finance minister before the Nazis came and realized they just didn't want that Catholic version of fascism. They just wanted the Nazi version of fascism, and they then ended up having a coup. But there is a obvious direct connection between the type of Austrian free market economics and this type of politics. History will show that the CIA obviously helped invest with that, with the Chicago Boys in terms of with Milton Friedman and the Chicago School, which is heavily influenced by Hayek and whatnot.
Yeah, Kuz, Pinochet, just mentioning.
So this other wing of the AfD tries to then solidify themselves as then being... They want to be the fascists, of the Björn Höcke's and all this other group, but they also then have an economic policy that's very much not a traditional right-wing nationalist party. That is much more for the sense of like extreme deregulation, the market functioning, and they've actually had a massive identity crisis within their policy papers of how to do this. Because if you notice, the AfD has never suggested things like, Grundeinkommen, which is, UBI, which is something that then a lot of other nationalist parties in Europe have been doing recently.
Yeah, which is when you look into the program, especially in 2017, their election, the first election program, it was really and what people said this, this is white working class kind of Trump situation, voting for AfD. Yeah. These policies are not beneficial for the white working class
Absolutely
in
not.
any way. And I also and we talked about that afterwards, that there is a lot coming from upper middle class.
Yeah, typically very well educated white men in Germany who also, I think the AfD is also a party that has one of the highest turnouts of voters with a PhD. Yeah. Typically also men with PhDs are much more inclined to vote for the AfD because their type of economic policy very much is white dude economic policy.
Yeah. Remember, we were at this, just a little anecdote, we were at this What's Up America thing, and we met a guy, very educated, middle-aged guy, saying how he switched from SPD to the AfD.
Yeah. And this is in 2015 or something like this. This is before they even...
this was before the 2017 federal election.
Yeah. So I think that it's really interesting because people try to point it at that there are these two factions that necessarily don't agree with one another who then exist within the party. And I would very much disagree because I think that this type of politic very much can exist very well within a far right party. I think that the AfD is actually one of the first true examples of this marriage that then isn't already a right-wing party that then is in power. So...
Yeah. So what I think, what Alice said, there was actually, so there was this also infight between the Hayek Society and the Hayek Foundation, because with Alice Weidel being part of the Hayek Society, the foundation said, okay, we don't want to be affiliated with this kind of, with AfD member. We don't know what do we do with them, but we have so many of them, Yo,
we're Austro-fascists. We're not actual fascists, okay?
So, yeah, I think there's also a lot about image. I think that's the same with,
that's the same thing always with these types. If you ever talk to then someone, there's no reason why you would actually meet them in real life. Yeah. But if someone who calls themselves an ANCAP on the internet is going to end up being a far-right lunatic one way or the other.
Being complicit to fascism.
Because they just want that. Yeah. In as long as it's private companies doing it. Remember, the history of the Nazis is not one of state ownership like the Soviet Union was. Exactly. It's very much of state ownership in the sense of that then massive German business was allowed to exist as itself.
They benefited from this.
With benefit of being affiliated with the Nazi party. Yeah. BMW and Bayer and all these companies got free labor in concentration camps because of the Holocaust. To the point that then what was that weird scandal recently with the CEO of BMW, mentioning that where her wealth came from, and everyone just threw it up being you literally made your wealth off of slave labor.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is very much a question that then's alive and well in Germany of how to go about this kind of, deal of this not being part of a not so distant, past of Germany, and that then the head of, right-wing extremism kind of peaking itself very conveniently at the time that it is now with, the 2017 with the refugee situation, and then now with Corona. The thing that's so weird about Corona, though, like I said earlier, is that the AfD is not doing very well right now.
Yeah, they kind of missed the opportunity here.
You got your one chance, you blew
one
it.
Shot, yeah.
That's what Eminem says, right?
Yeah.
And so, like I mentioned earlier, the AFD they were at 12.6% in the election in 2017, and they're currently polling around 9%, which is like not that big of a difference compared to obviously we would see the Greens, where they have went from a party that was almost non-existent during the last 2017 election to potentially could become a
second or
if it ends up in a red-red-green coalition, they will end up being the governing party.
Yeah, definitely.
The AFD, though, I'm not saying that they're going to be kicked out of parliament. They're probably not going to dip past the 5%, but they there is a massive movement that we've seen within the West of the Corona demonstrations obviously being fed by the right wing. And while this does happen in Germany, don't get me wrong, like there's a Corona protest that goes past my house probably once a week. It's stopped now recently, which is cool. But before the newest lockdown, I would have a caravan of cars beeping their horns at me with these stupid things that say like peace and love and, whatever. But the AFD had the whole like take your mask off for freedom thing. They were not wearing their masks in parliament.
Yeah, in parliament they would wear like some of them would like wear funny masks or something like that. So a mask but with like holes in it.
Yeah. So they're just being edgelords.
Yeah, exactly, being edgelords. Yeah.
And the AFD also has had a little bit of kind of support from conspiracy theories that have been going around, but they haven't been able to latch on very well to the Querdenker movement, which if people don't know, it's these Corona, it's actually a company that a guy created so that the people could just give him donations.
I mean, and this is interesting because the AfD is the party, in their party profile, they're probably the only party that is like outspoken about criticizing the Corona rules. If you're not like Christian Lindner saying, the economy or something like that.
The economy.
Exactly.
Classic Christian Lindner.
But Christian Lindner is not like denying that Corona exists or something like that.
And neither is the AFD actually publicly either, but they're latching themselves onto these movements. Yeah. And what was the study that we recently saw? It was 24% of people of the AFD in...
24% of AFD voters actually say that Corona is a conspiracy there to dominate people or to oppress
oppress
people.
You and take away your liberties, bro.
Exactly. Yeah. Well. Yeah. And 41%.
Yeah, 41% of the
of AfD voters say that it's possible that Corona is a conspiracy trying to oppress. So you have an
overwhelming majority
people.
Of the party who then think that Corona's in one way or another either a conspiracy or at least a method that the German government can clamp down on you and be fascist, even though they vote for a fascist party.
Yeah.
So, but this
is a big like political opportunity for them,
Yeah, but the thing that's really funny is that then if you look at the polling of then how Germans feel that then Merkel and the CDU and all of her gang of people are handling Corona is quite the opposite.
Exactly.
Like Merkel's polling, maybe not after today or after this week with the recent scandal with the European Union, the inability to bring out the vaccine, but still nonetheless, like Merkel's entire handling of Corona, at least in my opinion, has not been great, but yet she's been kind of good at holding off against criticism from her coming from then the AfD because it hasn't really been there. They haven't formed themselves around the Querdenker movement. They haven't formed them they didn't really do a big thing about the anti-mask things where they made them the anti-mask protests existed, but it didn't seem like the AfD took that as like their party thing to.
They did some weird stunts in parliament and shit like that, but not really. Yeah,
and one of the weirdest
not
things,
like they did with Pegida back then.
Exactly. They didn't that's the thing is that Pegida allowed these two groups to come up simultaneously. And it's very interesting because if you look at the Junge Alternative, the youth movement of the Alternative for Germany, they don't give a shit about the mask stuff. They're like, we'll wear the mask. The mask is to protect us and to protect Germany. So they've made it like a national question for them.
Yeah.
And the thing that's actually pretty funny to me is that then if the party would have went with that line of that, we'll go along these things for then the preservation of the nation and
nationalism for Corona.
Exactly. Yeah. That may have actually worked better in their favor because everyone just, I think, who is I think people just at this point want to get over it. Be all right, we get that Corona's a real thing, and that being more like disciplined in a more traditional fascist sense may have actually been something that the AFD could have like done to, maybe attract a populace that then felt that were right wing and felt that the CDU wasn't doing enough. Because remember, offices still are not closed. We are a year into a pandemic, and the CDU is massively mismanaging this entire thing. And on top of it, the vaccine rollout is being done now on a European level.
Yeah.
Okay, so EU skepticism on top of that, to where then now Söder and Spahn are getting mad at Merkel for not doing it on a national level.
You should be their political strategist.
I do not want to be the political strategist of the AFD, but it's like you see that like being more traditionally nationalist in the sense of like being like, protect yourself because of the pandemic, but make this a national question may have actually been a better route for the AFD that they never took on, because they're too like their boomer generation of people are all Q-brained, and the younger generation, funnily enough, is taking this on as that responsibility, which is really weird. And I think it's funny at the end of the day that then because of fucking Corona, the AFD is just going to end up being a party in Germany that then probably will stay around for another 2 elections, and then
there's something that is different about like this time, this kind of crisis, and what happened in 2015 is that in 2015 people weren't like necessarily affected by what was going on. With Corona, your grandmother can still get Corona even though you're like believe that it is just like something to oppress humans and to take away their liberties, and then your grandmother gets it or you get it, and then you're like, oh shit, it's real.
No, of course.
So this is something that can affect everyone. Well, of course you can make up conspiracies and shit like that, and of course there are people who believe that it is a conspiracy, but at the same time, well, if it hits you, like if reality
snap back to reality.
Well, this is basically all like just
Eminem quotes. That's how we're getting through the episode.
There are no like alternative facts in that sense.
But there is an alternative for Germany.
Whoa.
But I do find it. Like I said, I think the AFD is just kind of like going to comfortably sit around that 9%. They, I'm not saying that this threat is over for Germany, of course, because the right is very much a thing, as we've seen with
going strong.
Yeah, we've seen with the police and the daily Einzelfall that we have with racism, Nazism, and whatnot in the police forces around the country. I think that it manifesting itself though into a coherent party again that is like the AFD isn't going like I don't see the AFD clinging on. Like I think there's way too many internal strifes with them. They don't know what they are. They knew what they were in 2016, 2017 because they're just like, well, we're racist. And then it's like, okay, well, the racism thing worked. It worked for a minute. You got, 94 seats or now 88 seats. Haha, 88 seats in Parliament
when I saw
for a far
like,
right-wing party.
Perfect.
So like they are there. But if they're not going to be like the party for Germans and for like the party for the, just if they're not going to be traditionally a right-wing party, in a European sense of a right-wing party, then like what's the point? They're going to be they're going to be a party that then has the economics of then like, well, we're the FDP but just more openly racist. Yeah. And no one wants that, because if you have either one of those parties already. You have the right wing of the CDU. Okay, CDU has shown that they can do the racism.
Union, they're great at it.
And you have the FDP. You have the free market liberal bullshit party that then is going to maybe surpass 5% every election. Who will never govern again in this country, and like rightfully so, because they're garbage, and they have a cult of personality around a fail son. Of Christian Lindner, who thinks he's like the hottest person in all of Germany. So
never forget those black and white posters.
Oh God,
campaign posters.
Digitalization.
And then we can think about things.
Digitalization first, thinking second. And that's the thing that they ended up with. Like what they're like 12%. Yeah, like they did really well with that. I know. With that campaign.
I mean, everyone was like, Wi-Fi, right? It's like, I love it.
So I hope I'm right about this. I hope that the AfD goes away. I don't think it'll be done.
Julis are going strong on Twitter right now. There's a lot of Nachwuchs.
Julia's joining the Junge Liberalen. She's becoming an FDP member. I think. Wait, you're still young enough to be a member of a youth party?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
I mean, I can't join a youth party in Germany, so. No. I mean, I'll vicariously live through your Juli membership.
Thank you. I always wanted to have a yellow heart in my Twitter angle.
Yeah. You've already had enough trouble doing a podcast with 3 dudes. Now imagine an entire party that functions like that.
Oh shit! No, I can't do that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I hope I'm right about this. I hope that the AfD is just kind of a thing that then is going to come and go because of that. There was this moment in time where the right-wing populism thing was going around in Europe, and Germany couldn't really manifest a coherent politic around it after the refugee situation. I mean, look at Italy. All right, look at Salvini has a coherent politic that he could very well take power in Italy. Viktor Orban's already in power.
Oh yeah.
UKIP disappeared though.
Yeah.
So
you hope that AfD is having a UKIP moment.
Yeah. They were a one-issue party.
I know.
They were the racist party against refugees. And then they had that. And then it's but our economics are actually super free market and not beneficial to German workers.
Yeah.
And the people who are then still there are Q people, it seems like.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. This is just me speculating. This is the class discuss section of our outline.
Yeah, they are still very strong in
the East,
in the new states of Germany.
Yeah, and it's not saying that the West isn't racist, but
no.
Those the solidified parties of the West can already be racist and they can do
NRV North Rhine-Westphalian AfD right now has some internal struggle as well. With power in the party and shit like that.
Damn.
So, I know.
Hate to see it.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, and to be very fair, I do think that the CD...
This guy, fun fact, that developed More Hühner, the game. If you're German, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, he was for a long time the head of the party in North Rhine-Westphalia, and he has kind of a list for his successors and stuff like that. So he's kind of power...
They're just such nerds.
I know.
They're so lame.
They're right now, and someone wrote him an email saying I can't do this anymore. You're you don't have any discipline. So the guy writing this email is a soldier, a former officer or general or something of the Bundeswehr.
Okay.
And he's part of the AfD.
Cool. Oh, surprise.
Yeah. And he's blaming our Morhun guy, game developer. It was a computer game where you can shoot chickens that are flying. So this guy, he doesn't have any discipline. So right now there's some internal struggle.
Damn, gamers will never get the soldiers behind them.
I know, right?
Damn, that's a real problem that the right has.
Yes.
Yeah, I do this. So this is kind of on just one last note. I think that the sense of what I think that I think that the CDU not nominating Merz is beneficial for them in multiple ways of keeping their party together. And there is that potential of then certain factions of the CDU to then do the ND, so the New Democracy move in Greece, and just make certain things of their party a little bit more racist.
So getting rid of Afgi, Christi Afgi. Kind of
getting rid of Golden Dawn. So I mean, look at it. You have Jens Spahn, who is very much against Merkel's refugee policy that she did. You have
diversify your conservatives.
Yeah, but it's also in the sense too of that there is, you mentioned then Werteunion, the right-wing part of the CDU, who I wouldn't find them to be ideologically all too different than the average AfD voter.
No, definitely not, no.
There is also, the only thing that then I would say is just different is there's just the upfront actual, we love 1933 to 1945.
Yeah.
And then the very upfront, we love Austrian economics, which is the weirder section that probably isn't as popular. But the CDU's been doubling down on their like fight against like Arab clans and stuff like that recently. They made that as one of like the big parts of their party conference recently.
Of that video as well.
Yeah, they can do that stuff very well, and they have a part of the party that then doesn't like Merkel's refugee policy. That then a bunch of people saying that we're going to reverse that. Merz being the most vocal of that, saying that he's going to be for like Abschiebung and whatnot, so like pushing people out of Germany and whatnot. You had then the CDU's horrible plan of then sending people to safe countries like Afghanistan and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
So these politics already exist internally within the CDU, and I think that it's just that the time and place of the AFD latching onto it as what it was then can't really manifest itself as the AFD furthering, but the CDU can further itself and then maybe catch some AFD votes. People who are like, well, I don't see this party growing. I'll go back to voting for the CDU because the overwhelming majority of them used to vote for the CDU anyway. That's just my, maybe you can agree or disagree, but that's the way that I see it. You as the German can be like, no, Nick, you're wrong. The AFD is going to be here forever and we're all going to live in the alternative of Germany.
I mean, they obviously have a lot of like scandals and shit to deal with right now, and there is a lot of infighting going on that we had before already, like with like Frauke Petry leaving and
immediately
leaving and and I don't know, nobody wanting to hang out with them in the EU Parliament and shit like that.
I mean, rightfully so.
That was before. Right now, as you said, like they didn't take that opportunity to do kind of like what they did before by catching voters through like political opportunity like Corona.
They missed their chance and they blew.
Yeah. It's not looking
I'll stop with the horrible Eminem references. I'm so sorry.
No, it's great. I don't see, even though they are now like suspected, like suspected case of like right-wing extremism in 3 states, I don't see them going away because there is a lot of support in these like 3 states.
I'm not saying they're going to go away.
No, I know. I'm just
they'll exist as a smaller party like the FDP.
Yeah. That is like...
And unfortunately, Die Linke, even though I like Die Linke.
Yeah. And I also don't know what this does, like if these like state Verfassungsschutz, because we know that they are not like so good when it comes to investigating right-wing extremism. They rather care about left radicals. Yeah, I think like, they don't know what to do because like most of their friends are right-wing extremists. So they're just like, okay, I don't know. So I don't know, what that it's like symbolic more than it is effective in that sense.
Like Trump's impeachment.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what really like happens there, but it seems to me right now that they are losing a lot of like ground with their voters. Yeah.
So I'm not going to give a full prediction, but I do think that, I think we're both right about this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe come September, the AFD ggets like 27% because magically they get their shit together. Please don't get your shit together, the AFD. Please keep bleeding in the polls.
Keep bleeding.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for no Eminem reference.
You're welcome.
And I guess on that note, we will see you guys then, not next week, but the week after that for whatever is going to be the topic, because it seems like the world's very slowly just turning into pure chaos. So we will send chaos energy into the next 2 weeks, and we'll see you then.
Tune in for more Eminem.
Tune in for me quoting Eminem songs, as in "Only Lose Yourself."
Yes.